So this labeler that we run has two separate stations. We can do multiple different things with them. We can run a front label and a back label on two separate stations, or how we're doing it today, the rolls of labels have the front and back on the same roll. So we're actually going to spool both stations with the same labels. And what that allows us to do is switch stations when we run out of labels on one to the other one without having to stop the machine. So typically what you would have to do if you just have a single labeling station is shut down the entire machine to swap new rolls. This way we can swap rolls without having to stop anything. We can switch it on the fly. So what I'm doing is removing a chunk of labels. That's basically for only the setup process. When we're running them through the configuration, we don't want any labels on the paper. We just want just the backing paper. And to figure out the configuration, it's printed straight on the machine. So you're basically just following the guidelines. I'm gonna start setting this guy up here. Can be a little tricky the first time. Once you get it, it's pretty easy. Josh, I think I might actually have you do the front half, just so I don't have to run around. So while I'm doing this back half, Josh is going to finish spooling the front half since I can't reach it from here.
Ever get that both in the unit?
I want to point out the eye on there as well. So the way that this labeler reads the label itself is up front here, there's this little fork. It almost looks like a tuning fork. So this is what is seeing the label on the paper. So that's what's telling us basically the spacing between the labels. So when you're spooling them, you need to make sure that the paper goes in between that eye. So you can see on the back side, we just slid it straight in between there. Feeds them through. Last part, this is just a locking roller. Goes through the locking roller, back to the back spool. Just a simple locking rod that slides over that. And this guy just has a quarter twist. You can feel it lock in a position. Now it's holding that paper. And the last step is to lock it. Just lock the nut on top, which locks the roll onto the spool. Okay, so I'm going to our home screen. So this is the list of all the different pre-programmed label setups that we have in here. So I'm running, this is station 1 and station 2. So first I need to set up station 1. So this is a Good Harbor label. We're running 2 labels, so I'm going to click on Station 1, Good Harbor, enter. So this is asking me if I'm going to be running these heat heads. So since we are, I'm going to tell it yes, it's saying they're turning on, so these are going to start heating up. So these will basically preheat. So this is our main operating screen for when we're running a station. This bottom one is just a bottle count for how much was ran through that day. The middle one is the speed, so that's bottles per hour. And the top one is just telling us what program that we're in. So to start, I'm going to slow it down just so we can work on it a little slower pace. So from here, we're looking at, we have 2 labels that are going onto 1 bottle. So it's label 1 and label 2. So we click on the first one, and what this is telling me is all my spacings, and what was preset from the last time I used this. There's a lot of numbers and a lot of options to change on these screens. There's only a few that are actually the important ones. So this first one, if you can see, there's 2 lines shutting down. That's basically telling you how much of the label is going to be sticking off of what we call here, which is the blade. So right now it's set at 45 mils. So what we can do is we can test that by ejecting some labels to see if we like how it looks. If not, we can adjust it. So just like on the other machine, we'll turn it to manual mode, which is just a simple key switch. And I'm going to start.
Show that again.
So right now we're in automatic. So if I press start, it's just going to start running, or I can switch it to manual, which means it's only going to run when I'm holding this button down. So as soon as I let go, the whole machine's going to stop. So whenever we're setting this machine up, we typically run in manual just so we have more control over the machine. So before we do anything, I'm going to get a label all the way to the front edge, because since we just spooled up the label, there's a lot of blank space that isn't set. So there's just 1 button for it, for these 3 arrows. I'm just going to tap that button, and that's going to shoot our labels all the way up to the edge. So now we're looking at our measurement there, 45 mils. This is how much label that's sticking out. To me, that looks good. You want just enough label sticking out that it'll have something to grab onto the bottle. If it's too far forward, it could stick onto the bottle too soon. If it's too far back, it'll just be a late label on the bottle. So that's roughly what you want. Just a few mils sticking off the edge. We could back it off a little bit, but for now we're going to roll as that's what we want. So that's the first page. So now we're going to move on to the second page. So now we're working off of the second label. So same thing, 45 mils. You always want those numbers to be the exact same, as well as the other number there. So all of our numbers are the exact same. So we're ready to test a bottle. Before we can do that, we have to size this guy here. So this little flipper is basically telling the machine that there's a bottle in position to get a label. Otherwise the bottle would just go straight through and it wouldn't trigger anything. So by flipping that, it's going to engage our rollers and engage the labeler to shoot a label out. So we're going to give it a whirl here. So we're in manual mode, so I can just hold down the button, let the machine get to speed, let a bottle go through. And just like that, we have a front and a back label on the bottle. So now what we can do is start determining our height of our label and our spacing between the front and the back. So as you can tell, this gap is a lot bigger than this gap, so we need to adjust that so they're even. And then we need to confirm with the winemaker how high or how low they want the label on the bottle. So what we'll do first, we can adjust the height. It's a really simple controls. So if we go all the way back to the home screen, we can just start from here. All of these adjustments are done on label 2. So I'm going to go straight into clicking on label 2. And then there's an up and a down arrow. And when I click on, you can see all of station 1 is moving up and moving down. And you can dial that in pretty exactly. You can click on them and just type in a physical volume or a physical height, but we typically just use the arrows for up and down. So we have our height adjusted, so now we need to adjust our label spacing. This tends to be the most intricate or the most detailed part of it. So we're going to start with a fresh bottle. So this diagram here is showing us the spacing of the bottle and the spacing of the label. So if you can see, it's got the leading edge of label 1, the leading edge of label 2, and that's spacing it out at 115 millimeters. So that's what we need to adjust. So if we run a bottle through, we can measure it, compare it to the numbers on the screen. So that's showing us our 115 mils. But we can tell that that's not enough space since the back end is bigger. So we need to extend that number to move this edge further back. Just get a new bottle, Josh. So I extended it by 3 mils. So we'll send another test bottle through. First do a visual check. It looks a lot closer. You can do a measurement. So we're still off by a good little bit, but we're getting closer. So we're moving in the right direction. So we're gonna bump it up. And just like that, they're even. So now we have our label spacing set. So we did that for station 1. Now we have to go back all the way to our home screen. So we did everything, we got everything set for station 1, but we're running 2 stations, so now we have to do the exact same thing for station 2. The good thing is we know all of our numbers now. So we can basically just go straight into station 2 and make our numbers match station 1. So we got our label spacing. Go back into station. Make sure our label is inside of our eye. We just entered the numbers into station 2 to make station 1 and station 2 match. One important thing to always remember is whatever label that you set up as the first label, to have that one on the leading edge. So right now, this roll of labels has a front label and a back label. Both of those labels are different sizes. So if you mix them up, your spacings are going to be off. So right now, you can visually see that I have both front labels, this label on the leading edge. So what I don't want is that label sticking off here. because that'll throw off all your spacing. So just something to look at. Always have your first label be your front label. That way you can't mess anything up. So the only thing with these two stations, when you're running 1 and 2, the only numbers that are different are the height. For some reason, you could type in the exact same height as the other station, they're still going to be off. So what I typically do is I'll get one station to the height that I want it, I'll put my finger on top of it and raise the other one up to it to make sure that the tops are level. And then the final test you can do is put a bottle through one station. I'm just handing a clean one over. So I have station 1 set to the height that I want. So what I'm going to do is run one bottle through. That sure wasn't right. Oh, I see what I did. 1 second. I accidentally put station 2's paper through station 1's eye. Okay, let's try that again. So I got station 1 set to the height that I want. I'm going to run one bottle through. And then to do a final test on it, to make sure that they're both even, then move to station 2. Set this guy up in. And to make sure that they're at the same height, what I'll actually do is put the same bottle back through, and I can match them. So station 1's below, station 2 is above. I can tell that they're both not the same, so now I can drop this station down to where it covers up the first one. So I'll go into my height. Drop it down a little bit. Try it again. So you can see I got closer. I still have a little bit more to go. A little more. Now you can see that it almost completely matches, so I'll just have just about a mil left, and now they should be completely even. So you grab a fresh bottle and go on station 2. Move back to station 1. Do the whole thing over again. In my eyes, that's pretty darn close. Now our labels are the same height, they got the same spacing. So right now I went from automatic mode to manual. That way I can just hold down the button and stop it whenever I want to.
Now all we're adding is just the bottle.
At this point, we would take that bottle to whoever our point person is, and they would confirm that all the packaging looks correct to their standards, and at that point we are ready to roll. Now the last thing to do on this end is see if the winemaker wants anything printed on the bottle. If so, we will set up the bottle printer. So what I'm doing now is setting up to test my bottle printer. So just a little trick that we do is tape something white over it. It's black ink on a dark bottle, which can be sometimes hard to see. So just to confirm that it's on the bottle and clear, I'll put a piece of white paper on there just to get a bright picture. Just a piece of paper towel. So just like we did before on the box printer, we're going to go in and see. So we have our 4 options. I'm going to go into message and choose what message we want. So this is a bottle count. We have a date and the vintage, or the wine, so let's say we're going to do that one. So we're going to press start. Now it is ready to start printing. So switch this guy back to automatic and turn it on. So start and stop. And when I press start, now the machine will run on its own. So this printer is based off of timing with the belt speed. So whatever speed that you're going to be running your belt on is how you need to set this guy. So we're going to see what it's at right now. I'm going to put a bottle through and let it pass through. Past our printer head. You can see there's nothing printed on the bottle except for there may have been something really late. I'll run it one more time and try to catch it. So that's telling us that our delay is not correct for the speed. So on our control panel here, there's a button that says delay. So that's basically controlling when it's going to shoot the ink out. So we are going to adjust that and see if we can't get the ink to show up on the bottom here. Adjusting, go to delay, clean out the number we had on there, and try again. So this whole printer works by, there's a laser that's going across here, so when it's disrupted, that's when it's going to shoot the ink out. So we're going to let the bottle get the speed. Give this cartridge a little wipe down to make sure that it's not dirty, make sure it's not clogged. When it's not showing up on the bottle, it's kind of a guessing game until you find it. But we're starting to get there. We have some ink. So I'm putting in it's basically the delay when it passes the laser as to when it wants to shoot the ink. Josh, can you just speed that machine up to 3,000? Old cartridge. See if the new one will be nicer to us. So we're starting to get there. So you can see it went onto the bottle, but the bottle was either moving too fast past it, it didn't catch up, so we need to thoroughly adjust our delay here. So we're at 35, we'll try 30. See if that gives us a clear picture. So we're better. There's still a little bit of delay. Dial it in a hair more. Try it one more time, and lucky for us we went right on top of the first one, but we will call that good and we're ready to roll.
If we are labeling corked bottles, when we fill those, we will store the corked bottles in the box without capsules on them, and corked bottles will either get polylaminate or PVC like this. If we are running metal caps or Stelvin capsules, screw caps we call them, this entire side of the machine will go ahead and get lifted up out of the way. We don't need any of this stuff because the bottle already has a screw cap on it, so all it needs is a label. So it'll run through that whole process that we've just covered here. It'll run down this conveyor, hit the entry screw, and it will actually continue in a clean pass this way. One thing we do, if it is a metal or screw cap, is we have this plastic guide that we'll put in here. And all this does, if you notice these pins here that the star wheels go on, all this guide does is just keeps the bottles from potentially drifting and hitting one of these and falling over. If it does tip and fall, it could get caught in these shafts here, and it could snap the bottle in half, and then obviously you've got broken glass and wine everywhere. So we put this guide up just as a safety precaution. Typically we don't have that issue, but again, it's just an extra safety precaution. But if we go to our tool menu, and you can either click on it and control everything from this screen, or you can go back and you can hit the tool menu and your up and down arrows for this whole controlling the height of this entire unit over here or right here. So all I was doing was lowering it down to what would normally be the bottle height, so that as the bottle passes through, the sensor here senses that there's a corked bottle sitting there waiting to be capsuled. The air will push a capsule into the cup will flip, drop a capsule down onto the bottle, and it will continue along its process. So say we're doing a bottle that already has a cap on it, a screw cap. We won't need to apply anything other than a label to this bottle. So we'll go ahead and we'll raise everything up out of the way. You're not going to need any of this. And that's as simple as going back in here again, going to the tool menu, and simply hitting the up arrow and raising the whole machine up out of the way. At this point, we've covered everything from entry onto the bottling line through bottles getting filled, capsule, labeled, and everything. You will be able to use this trailer for strictly labeling purposes, and in order to do that, you're not going to want to send it through the actual filler and put a capsule on it or a cork. The starting point for all of this, for labeling, you're pretty much going to bypass everything from the beginning, the McBrady here, and the filler, straight to your label machine. We're going to get your closure and your labels. So I'm going to go over how to take this out and adjust the McBrady to allow a bottle to pass straight through on the belt, instead of going into a slot in the McBrady and wasting time spinning all the way around and spitting it out. And there is no need for a bottle to get in here because there's already liquid in the bottle and it is already closed, so it's kind of pointless for anything to go through here. So what you're going to do is first kind of adjust your track, give yourself some room, and one way we've done that is this bar that's sticking out here. All you do is simply grab it and rotate it in. This gives yourself an extra 2.5, 3, 4 inches of room there. Loosen up these wing nuts. And again, being a small part, you want to make sure you put them somewhere you're not going to lose them, fall on the floor, slide under the machine. And so there's 2 here, and there's 2 smaller ones in the back. So there's one up high, and there's one down low here. And once those wing nuts are removed, everything's free to come out. removed. Sometimes it comes out easy, sometimes it takes a little bit of manipulation of the wheels here, or the blocks. And then what you want to do, just line this up with the outer edge of the track, and that allows for a free pass through. And then you'll turn this back. There you go. So now as the bottles are dumped on the back side of the conveyor, as they filter through this channel here, they have a free pass through, so we've bypassed our McBrady. So what you're going to do is remove all of these change parts that we discussed earlier. And it's as simple as just taking these all off. Just set them to the side. When you get a chance, throw them in the overhead bin up here, which is where they're all stored. The only change part you don't have to take off is the entry screw, because that's going to control this, how often the bottles and how fast they come out of the entry part of this line. They'll spit them out in increments so that they do still line up over here with the star wheel. So I'll show you which ones are coming out and which ones stay in. So both of the entry and exit star wheels come out. This guide comes out. And again, you can set them down here. You've got a minute to put them in the overhead. This flips up. It's as easy as just taking this bolt out here, and this flips up. And you do want to put the bolt back in here just in the odd chance that a bottle hits this and this falls back down. Creates a little bit of a mess. Bottles tip over, break, and you don't have to screw it all the way in. You actually kind of want to leave it up a little bit higher. Sort of a buffer there. This is our bottle trigger. This lets the machine know that there's a bottle coming through here. It spins the carousel and notifies the closure side of this machine that there's a bottle there. So we want to get that out of the way. Phillips head, just slide it back, and we'll just kind of hide that back end, hold it back with the wire there on the cable. You can tighten it back down if you want. You don't have to. It's not going to go anywhere. Okay, so for this section, that's all that needs to come out. Again, you keep the entry screw in there, and you will want to keep this back guide and this star wheel in. Again, just as if you were bottling, you want to make sure that these change parts do fit your bottle size. And even though it is passing underneath, whether it's the cork or whichever side of the closure head you've got on here, all you'll want to do is raise it up, which I'll do now. Okay, so again, this back guide and this star wheel will stay in here, just because they work with the timing with the entry screw here. And in order to raise this up, again, as we showed earlier, what you're going to do, there's 3 sets of arrows here, up and down. This will be the last one on this roll. Simply hit the up button, and this will raise this whole head. You want to max it out as high as it'll go. It's better just to get it completely out of the way. And it'll let you know when it's done and maxed out, because it won't go any higher. And that's it. So again, the bottle will come through here. The entry screw will time it to send it down the conveyor. It'll hit the star wheel here. It'll guide it along. It'll stop as it normally does if you're filling the bottle. That pedestal back there will rise. The bottle will rise. It'll drop it back down, and it'll continue its cycle on down the conveyor. Continue to our entry screw for our label side. Depending on if you're putting a capsule on, we'll say for this scenario that we are, we'll have this lowered. The cork bottle will hit here. The sensor will sense that there's a cork bottle in the way. It will drop a capsule onto the bottle, and it will then hit our entry star that would normally be here if we were putting a capsule on. feed it onto the tray. It would either heat shrink the PVC that we have in now, or would roll a polylaminate capsule onto the neck of the bottle. Continuous rotation to the exit star, and spit it back out onto the track, where it would then get a label and continue along its way. As we have it set up now, if it had a screw cap already on, same scenario, it would continue along the same process to this point. We would still keep this entry screw here, just to keep the timing accurate. It would then spit the bottle out. We would have this all raised up, so that none of this was in the way, and it would continue basically bypassing all of this straight to the labeler, where we would apply a label and continue it along the track.